Good morning. This is meteorologist Drew Lerner of World Weather Incorporating. This is your world weather update here for Wednesday, August the 6th. And looking at North America, it looks a lot like it did yesterday. You see the cloud cover in the southeastern and mid-Atlantic states, lots of rain occurring in some of that region. Some thunderstorms are working their way into the central part of the country across part of the Midwest, mostly across Iowa and parts of neighboring areas of Nebraska. A little cluster of storms there this morning, some lighter precipitation to the north. Canada's prairies taking a little bit of a break. The precipitation that occurred yesterday was fairly significant across Saskatchewan. There's still a little bit of rain occurring in Saskatchewan and Manitoba this morning. That precipitation will wind down, but it will still be a rainy day across northern parts of Manitoba and in a portion of northeastern sections of Saskatchewan. This is the first of two large storm systems that are going to be bringing generalized rain into the prairies. That second system that comes into the prairies is this system you see out here off the British Columbia coast moving inland. And it will start having influence on the prairies as early as tomorrow in parts of Alberta and continuing into Saturday there, and then from Friday through Sunday across the eastern prairies. For the rest of North America, it's all about this stationary front here in the southeastern part of the country. We still have this little disturbance down here, which still has a 40% chance of evolving into some kind of a tropical depression or tropical cyclone sometime in the coming week. And this system in today's model data, it comes close to the North Carolina Outer Banks area, but does not come inland. And it does feed some moisture into parts of North Carolina and Virginia. But the storm, if it's going to develop, is probably going to be somewhere off the open, over the open water off the northeast part of North Carolina's coastal area, and then move away from North America. So we're not too concerned about that particular event. Out in the Atlantic, that little tropical wave that we've been talking about is still located to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. And the National Hurricane Center has given it a 60% chance of developing into some kind of a tropical cyclone in the coming week. This system is expected to move off to the west-northwest eventually and end up over open water in the central Atlantic. And even if it becomes a tropical cyclone, it is not expected to develop into anything that would threaten land. So we'll continue to watch it, but that's kind of the situation there. And then a new disturbance, a new tropical cyclone, is going to be developing off the southwest coast of Mexico in the next 24 to 48 hours. There's a 90% chance that that system will evolve in such a manner. You can see in the shaded area here, the little cone of expectation, that most of the influence from this new storm system is going to stay off the coast of Mexico, and eventually it'll move away from land. Outside of that, we still have Henrietta that is out there in open water. It's still expected to pass north of Hawaii, and that's pretty much the extent of that threat. And farther to the west, in the western Pacific Ocean, we have a little disturbance here out over the open water just to the east of the Philippines. That's being watched for possible development, but it's got a low potential for that. And outside of that, most other weather systems are way off the coast of East Asia, so really not much to be concerned about. Let's take a look at the past weather. In the U.S., two areas of significant precipitation yesterday. The first was in the northern plains of Red River Basin area and into northwestern Iowa, and this area picked up on some significant rain. We did see 1 to 3 inch amounts. You're not seeing the greatest amounts on this particular graphic, but there were some 1 to 3 inch totals that occurred in the southeastern part of North Dakota, northeastern South Dakota, and west central sections of Minnesota. In fact, over 3 1/3 inches of rain fell at one location there. The other area of rain was in the southeastern states associated with that frontal boundary that we looked at on satellite imagery. You can see some of the amounts were pretty significant there with more than 4 inches, but a lot of it was in the 1 to 3 inch range up against the eastern slopes of the Appalachian Mountains, and key crop areas were not nearly that wet. The temperatures yesterday were seasonable for the most part across a big part of the country, starting to heat up, though, in the southern plains, and still quite cool in the southeastern corner of the country where all that heavy rain was occurring yesterday. Temperatures were only in the 60s and 70s, pretty impressive. The soil assessment that was done for yesterday shows the Delta and parts of the western Tennessee River Basin area as being the driest region. Some of that drier tendency has reached up to the Ohio River and into parts of southeastern Missouri. And the topsoil is rated short to very short. Subsoil moisture is marginally adequate to very short. So there's quite a bit of variety there in the subsoil. But we do think that there are areas in Arkansas and Mississippi in particular that are getting to the point of some notable stress. The rest of the moisture profile across key U.S. Midwestern crop areas is mostly favorable. We're still watching western Michigan a little bit and some other pockets in Michigan that are a little bit dry biased, but the situation is not very serious at the moment. The southern plains are still pretty dry, and they're going to get drier. There's a lot of heat coming up in the central and southern plains. We might just go and take a look at that real quick. Let's do that. And we'll take a look at just how warm it is going to be out there. Let me get back to the beginning of this loop. We do have temperatures today that are going to be running in the 90s to over 100 degrees from Kansas into West Texas. It's going to be hotter in the southwestern states. But for crop country, we're going to see the heat expand in the central plains all the way up into South Dakota tomorrow. We'll see the temperatures peaking out into the 100 to 105 or 106 degree range tomorrow. The hottest weather is likely to occur as we get out towards Friday afternoon, and 100 to 106, maybe even a 108 will be possible from southwestern Nebraska into West Texas. That should be about the extent of the hottest weather. We'll start seeing the air turning a little bit cooler after that. Temperatures will get back mostly in the 90s as we go into the second half of the weekend. And none of that heat really gets into the Midwest or any other major crop area. The parts of the Delta do warm up, and with their limited rainfall in the north, we will see increasing crop stress. But it's a short-term bout of heat. The only other thing to note is out here in the west. You can see this is next Tuesday. You can see the heat is back in the Pacific Northwest. We back off a panel or two here. You can see that the heat really kind of begins in Washington and parts of Oregon on Sunday and continues through Tuesday. And it'll probably prevail through much of next week, maybe not to the same level of intensity, but it will continue to be warm biased out that way for a little while. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint and take a look at the soil moisture situation in Canada. On the right-hand side is the latest soil assessment. This was before yesterday's rain in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and we are running very short on topsoil moisture and mostly short on the subsoil. But the rains did come. You can see the rain in the upper left-hand corner there. Some of the moisture totals that occurred yesterday were halfway decent. It wasn't widespread. We do need to see a more general soaking, but certainly a small part of west central sections of Manitoba into portions of, we'll call it kind of central portions, and maybe some in the southeast part of Saskatchewan, where we did see amounts that got up between 0.6 of an inch and about 1.60 inches, but that was still not widespread and uniform enough. Still have a lot of dryness out in the west, in western Saskatchewan and into the southeast corner of Alberta. And those areas did not get much rain yesterday. And it's still pretty dry in parts of the Peace Country, in particular from Beaver Lodge back into the Fort St. John area in British Columbia. Well, Mexico hasn't changed much either. It's still drying down, and that is a concern. There are showers and thunderstorms that are occurring in parts of western Mexico, but there's just not enough to get that moisture profile back to where it should be at this time of the year. We do expect some rain to occur in that western part of Mexico, but it's not likely to occur very significantly until early next week. So most of that rain will hold back for a few more days. South Texas, or actually not South Texas, but the southern plains continue to be dry biased. All that heat that we're going to have the next few days will be accompanied and followed by persistent below normal precipitation, taking us all the way out through day 10 of the forecast. You can see the precipitation in the lower eastern Midwest is certainly light biased, along with the northern Delta and parts of the Tennessee Basin area. We talked about this yesterday. I fully expect this area to see more net drying rather than a boost in soil moisture. So this area needs to be closely monitored. I do think there will be some showers around next week, but I do not believe that they're going to be great enough to bolster soil moisture and remove the concern about dryness, especially in the Delta and the western Tennessee River Basin. Areas to the northwest in the corn and soybean producing areas, plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity expected. Crop conditions will stay just about ideal in some of those areas. You can see the rain coming up for Saskatchewan and Manitoba over the next 10 days, but most of this is between now and Monday. And certainly a significant amount of moisture there. And the same thing can be said about western and central parts of Alberta. So we're only left with a small portion of the southwest and west central areas, the prairies that don't do very well with rain. The GFS ensemble suggests above normal precipitation will occur in Canada's eastern prairies, in fact, much of the prairies, and also parts of the northwestern corn and soybean production area. I do think some of this is not correct for the eastern parts of the Midwest. I don't think Indiana or Ohio will see above normal precipitation, and probably a fair amount of Illinois will come up a little empty-handed too. It's not going to be dry, but it's not going to be above normal precipitation in those areas either. We do expect drying to continue in the Delta and portions of the western Tennessee River Basin area. West Texas is not likely to see a lot of moisture, and of course, it's going to be hot there for the next few days. The second week forecast, according to the GFS ensemble, turns wetter in the lower eastern Midwest. I think that this is not right, and I wanted to point it out to you because all the models have some rain in this area. And I don't have a problem with putting some rain into the lower eastern Midwest and the Tennessee Basin, northern Delta, but this above normal is not likely to occur. So I think the models in the future will be backing off on this rain intensity in that area. Most of the Midwest should see normal to slightly lighter than normal rains in the second week forecast. Notice the dryness in Florida. Notice the dryness in Mexico. And then I wanted to take one more look at the U.S. This is the GFS operational model. I believe this is the 6Z run, and actually it's the 0Z run. And I wanted to show it to you because I think it does the best job in reflecting what will take place in the lower eastern Midwest. Week one, the lower eastern Midwest is expected to be kind of drier biased. You can see you can see a fairly limited amount of rain. Again, I don't think it's going to rain that well in Ohio or Indiana, but I think the rest of that region should see below normal precipitation. Well, that same area in the second week does get scattered showers. I don't have a problem with that, but we want to keep the rain amounts light. And I think the model is erring with some of these localized amounts. But nonetheless, I think this model has the best idea as to what will take place. Scattered showers, yes. Significant rains, no. Continued dry bias in parts of the Delta and Tennessee Basin, probably so. Notice Canada's drier in the second week of the outlook. That's okay if all the rain occurs between now and Monday as advertised. The temperatures are expected to be mostly seasonable in key U.S. crop areas and Canada as well. It will be hot over these next few days across portions of the central and southwestern plains, also pretty darn warm in eastern Canada and the Great Lakes region. And as we move into the 6 to 10 day period, the heat in the west will become shifted farther west, so it's mostly west of the Continental Divide, and then eastern Canada and the northeastern United States will still be quite warm. This means that there'll be a stronger demand for cooling fuels in the northeastern part of the United States, and that's probably the only thing I can see at the moment that would have a big impact. Wheat is maturing across Ontario and Quebec and being harvested. And that will continue for a while. The dry and warm bias is good for them. Notice the normal temperatures in the heart of the Midwest. slight cooler tendency. As we get out into days 11 through 15, we will start warming up the northern plains, and most of the Midwest will be seeing near normal temperatures. In South America, nothing to talk about. In Argentina, still another dry day. In Brazil, also mostly dry yesterday. Temperatures were mostly in a seasonable range. And the forecast doesn't change from yesterday. Still looking at dry bias conditions in Argentina. Precipitation in Brazil will be mostly along the coast and maybe a little bit from parts of Paraguay into northern Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, and southern Paraná. Week 1 precipitation for South America is really not suggesting a great deal of moisture, and week 2 just a little bit of an increase. South America's temperatures, Argentina and southern Brazil will be cooler biased along with Uruguay, and that's in the first 5 days of the outlook, but even out to the 6 to 10 day period will be kind of coolish. Argentina stays in a milder than usual mode as we finish out the second week of the outlook. Brazil temperatures in the north will be more consistently warm. In Australia, precipitation yesterday was rather limited. I did want to show you the moisture profile. This is updated as of yesterday morning, and you can see the improvement that has occurred in parts of southeastern Queensland and the eastern crop areas in New South Wales. Most of that precipitation is along and to the west of the Great Dividing Range, but the moisture profile has improved there. But look at the subsoil moisture in that same area. You can see that there's still a lot of dryness in New South Wales and in Queensland. So there's still a big need for more moisture to occur in these areas. Really, for that matter, it's dry in the subsoil across much of Australia, including South Australia and Western Australia. So the need for more moisture, actually, I see what the problem is here. Hopefully that's just the wrong date on the chart, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. The outlook here for the next 10 days does bring some additional moisture into parts of Queensland, and it looks like the majority of the precipitation there is expected to be light except for along the coast, but any precipitation in Queensland would be welcome since the subsoil moisture is still lacking. And in Western Australia, a fairly good distribution of rain coming up over the next week to 10 days there, and continued sporadic periods of precipitation in Victoria and southeastern South Australia. In Europe, the situation continues to be mostly the same. It's dry in the west and also dry in the lower Danube River Basin with good soil moisture in the central and northeast. And the whole of the continent is going to see less precipitation for a while. Net drying will occur in many areas, but the only place where that's really an issue is going to be in southern parts of the UK into France, and also that lower Danube River Basin area where we're going to continue to be quite limited on moisture. Even southern and eastern parts of Ukraine into Russia's southern region will be dry biased. And so all 3 of these areas are going to need more significant moisture. Europe is going to be warm biased in the south through a big part of the forecast period, more normalish in the north. But the heat combined with the lack of moisture will likely add more stress to crops. Look at the soil assessment out of the former Soviet Union. We've really dried down the soil in quite a few areas in the past week to 10 days. Dryness that was once mostly confined to Russia's southern region and parts of southern Ukraine has been expanding northward and intensifying recently, and that has been brought on by warm temperatures and lack of rain. Well, the forecast does not offer tremendous change in that scenario. We're going to continue to see below normal precipitation, and the temperatures will be warm. They're just not going to be excessively hot. The rest of Russia to the north is going to see a good mix of rain and sunshine. You can see the temperatures are really not very threatening here. Southern Ukraine into Russia's southern region, slightly warmer biased, but that will become a little bit more enhanced in the 6 to 10 day period, and even out to days 11 through 15. Temperatures to the north, though, will be mostly in a seasonable to slightly warmer than usual bias. And in China, one last look at the dryness that's in east central parts of the country, because this is going to go away very quickly now. We do expect to see waves of rain moving into this area. So the dryness that's out there today is likely to be eliminated by this time next week due to abundant moisture that's supposed to fall across that region. And all the models are on board with this. This is the European solution. Notice that we also bring rain into the Korean Peninsula and across much of Japan. All of these areas were drier biased on the soil assessment. Whoops. You can see that situation in the Korean Peninsula. It's not nearly as dry as it is in parts of Japan. And you can see that that goes down deep in the soil. So along with the dryness in parts of East Central China. So definitely a beneficial event coming up for those areas. Really nothing to talk about in Turkey. They're done harvesting winter crops. They're not expecting much rain. It's going to continue to be hot. And in India, we are seeing rain improving in the south. You can see the latest soil assessment shows Karnataka is getting the most significant greater rains here recently, and that was reinforced by the rain that fell yesterday. Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh are the driest areas in the country at the moment, with the exception maybe northwestern Rajasthan. But even northwestern Rajasthan has had good rain in past weeks. There is going to continue to be a dry bias in northwestern India for a while. And we need to kind of keep an eye on that, but they have good soil moisture at the moment, and I wouldn't be overly concerned about that situation. They really only need a couple of good rains between now and mid-September, and they'll be home free. The outlook in Southeast Asia hasn't changed much, but the soil assessment suggested that Thailand did dry down again during this past week, and we saw some partial recovery in parts of Sumatra with their soil moisture, but there's still a need for greater volumes of rain in parts of Indonesia and Malaysia, and I think it is going to come, still is in the pipeline at least. And in the Philippines, it's still quite wet in Luzon Island, and there is some need for rain further to the south, but it's not a crisis either. Week 1 precipitation forecasted for the Philippines looks pretty good, and even Indonesia and Malaysia all look to be getting some rain. Still some drier biases here in central Thailand that will need to be closely monitored. The models had been predicting rain, but it seems like that's not holding up very well. Second week in Thailand is wetter, but after seeing some of the recent past forecasts for wetter, and then it turned drier, I don't think I want to buy into too much of this until we get closer to the second week of the forecast. But good timely rains will continue in the rest of Southeast Asia. This is meteorologist Drew Lerner.